moved to the UK, I was contracted to work 39 hours per week for my employer. So that means I was supposed to show up and work 156 hours in a month. That is 39 hours multiplied by 4 weeks. And my counterparts in the NHS were working 37.5 hours a week. Those were their contracted hours, right? And I saw other people in other nursing homes and other private hospitals that had 44 hours per week contracts, some even 48 hours per week contracts. So that means they have to show up 48 hours a week at work, okay? But then I was wondering, was my better? Was the NHS's own better? Or those on the 48 hours contract per week was better? But after being in the UK for 5 years and after doing a bit of research, now in this video, I'm going to give you all you need to know in terms of contracted hours, which is more beneficial, which is better, what you have to be aware of before you sign that contract, especially for those that are yet to come and for those that are switching employers, and what are the pros and cons. So if you're interested, stay tuned. So hi guys, my name is Nanelle Rizalda. On this channel, I talk about migrating to the UK. I talk about nursing. I talk about opportunities for people to relocate abroad and life in the UK as an immigrant in general. So if these are topics that interest you, please kindly subscribe. Okay, so today I'm going to compare the two very common ones, the 37.5 hours per week contract and those that are doing 44 hours per week contract, okay? So before I go ahead, let me just say that in the UK, the maximum hours you are allowed to work by law is 48 hours per week. And this is averaged out over 17 weeks. If you're under 18, this is lowered to 40 hours per week or 8 hours per day. So that is what you have to be aware of. So no employer can force you to sign a contract that is more than 48 hours per week. And if you think you have the energy to do more, you'd have to sign a form to declare that you are opting out of this rule. Again, so there are some professions that do work more than this 48 hours per week because of the nature of the work. We're looking at people in the police service, emergency services, healthcare services, and then those on the sea, blah, blah, blah. So these people, because of the nature of their work, okay? Now, let's talk about the flexibility. Let's say we have two nurses working at the same job. Let's say the same hospital, but one is on a contract of 37.5 hours a week and the other person is on a contract of 44 hours per week. What does this mean? The first point I want to raise is income or the financial considerations. So obviously, nurse A, who is on 44 hours per week, is supposed to show up every week 44 hours. So that is usually 4 shifts in a week because most shifts are 12 hours, okay? And it's usually 1 hour unpaid break. So that means you show up for 12 hours. However, 1 hour of that 12-hour period will not be counted. So you're only considering 11 hours. So 11 times 4 usually makes the 44 hours per week, okay? However, for the person who does the 37.5 hours, they are going to be able to make up the 37.5 hours. You know, what they usually do is that they work 3, 3, 3, 4, okay? In a 4-week period, they do, let's say the first week, 3 weeks, the second week, 3 weeks, the third week, 3 weeks, and let's say the fourth week, 4 weeks to make up for the number of contracted hours when you multiply it for a month, you know? And usually it might not be up to, but because usually you show up for, let's say 25 minutes of, let's say handover period, blah, 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 all those are counted and then included to make up for the number of hours you need in a month. So I hope that makes sense. So let's look at this case study, right? Nurse A is on 44-hour per week contract. Nurse B is on 37.5 hours per week contract, okay? And the hourly pay for the job is £10. This is just an example. So the nurse who is on a 44-hour per week contract must come to work 4 days in that week. And at the end of that week, the nurse is going to walk home with 44 hours multiplied by £10. That is going to give you about £440 for that week. And this is before any deductions, right? However, the nurse who is on the 37.5 hours contract and is working 10 hours per week, the person must show up 37.5 hours in that week and will be paid £375 in the week. So obviously, the nurse who was on a higher contract will get more money per week than the nurse who is on the 37.5 hours contract because obviously they work some hours more. So when it comes to the income or the financial considerations on the basic level, the one with the higher contracted hours is likely to walk home with more money per week. But don't forget that they are also likely to show up more hours in that week compared to the one with the lower contracted hours. Another thing that is worthy of note is that because you have signed a contract, let's say your employer has so many employees and there are no shifts, the employer is supposed to pay you that same amount per week, even if there are no shifts, okay? So in terms of the income or the financial consideration, the higher the contracted hours, the more the money, okay? So on that point, 44 hours per week wins. Okay, now let's talk about the flexibility and working hours. So obviously, if you are working 44 hours per week as your contracted hours, you have to work more hours. Okay, so you do not have that flexibility. You have to show up at work 44 hours and you probably only have about 3 days off. However, the one who's doing 37.5 hours a week, there are some weeks that this person might get 4 days off, and this person can spend this 4 days with a family, travel to another city, go have fun. But you, this other person, you have less days to yourself. So if you're a family person or if you have another part-time job, choosing a lower contracted hours will be more beneficial. Okay, so when it comes to work-life balance, or the lower the contracted hours, the better it is for work-life balance. Okay, now let's talk about overtime compensation. So here as well, let's say the company has so many overtime opportunities, right? Let's say they're very short-staffed, right? For you who is on a 44 hours per week contract, you have to work 4 days, okay? As your basic, you have to, right? 4 days per week, right? So it's only the remaining 3 days per week that you can pick overtime. But for the person on the 37.5 hours per week, some of the weeks they would have their normal working hours to be only 3 days a week. So they can pick as many as 4 days overtime. Okay, so when it comes to the overtime compensation, and I remember that overtime is usually paid much higher. So let's say this company is paying £20 per hour for any overtime hours, right? The person who did 44 hours per week, it's only on the 5th day that they can pick overtime and be paid £20 per hour for those remaining shifts, because it is any hour on top of the 44 that you can be paid overtime. So the 45th hour, the 46th hour, 47th, up to whatever hours you want to work. That is when you'll be paid overtime. However, the person that is on the 37.5 hour contract, from 37.6, 37.8, everything else is overtime and will be paid at a higher rate. Okay, so they will start getting the overtime enhancement much faster in a week than you are. That is if there's a lot of overtime opportunity. So think about that as well. Okay, consider that. It's a place where there are a lot of overtime opportunities, then choosing a lower or a much smaller contracted hours per week will be the best thing to do. So when it comes to overtime compensation, in a way, those with lower contracted hours do benefit. But here's the tricky part. If there are no overtime enhancements, remember that the person with the more contracted hours will definitely walk home with more money. Now, this is the most interesting part to me, the holiday pay. So listen, let's say you both go on vacation for 5 full weeks, okay? Nurse A, who's on 44 hour per week contract, will be paid for all the 5 weeks, 44 hours per week, multiplied by their hourly rate, plus any additional benefits on holiday pay or whatever. But for you, who is on 7.5 hours a week, if you also go on a 5-week holiday, for each week that you are away, you'll be paid 37.5 hours multiplied by your hourly rate, in this case scenario 10 hours per week. So you see that the person who is on a much higher contracted hours will still take home more money when they are on annual leave than you. And then there are some companies that also give enhancements. I think I've forgotten how this is called, but they look at how much you would have earned when you were not on holiday and compensate you something more. If you know how this thing is called, comment below, and then give you a bit of a compensation as well. Okay, so that what you are taking home will be similar to what you would have made whilst you were still working and not on holiday. And then also now let's talk about the energy and then the burnout. Okay, so with the energy and the burnout, obviously we know that the person who has to go to work 4 days a week for 12 hours is likely going to lose a lot of energy and burn out, and even has more health risk. Okay, so you ask yourself, where is the balance? Okay, and for those who are, let's say, on a shorter contracted hours, let's say 33, 22, 37.5, you also start at risk of being burnt out. I mean, yeah, everybody, but because you don't overwork yourself that much, maybe you are at less risk. But what I can say is that for some people, it is not their will to reduce their contracted hours. If you know me, you know very well that when I was working, before I got married, before my baby, I used to do 16 hours back to back. I mean, I could come for day shifts and close at 2, go home, sleep for 2 hours and come for night shift. I used to do that. I could work as a nurse and work as a carer. I could work 7 days a week. I could work 14 days in 2 weeks non-stop. But it was not my will to reduce my contracted hours. Family happened, life happened, and I had to, right? and I still have found ways to make as much money or even more money. What have I done? My time that I'm in the house, I've tried to find some work from home jobs. Okay, I have learned to do YouTube that will give me some extra cash on top. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that even if because of family and your circumstances you have to reduce your contracted hours, there is a way to go that would still bring you as much money as when you were doing overtime. Okay, meanwhile you'll be less at risk of burnout. Okay, and then you are in the comfort of your home and you can do a lot of things. What am I talking about? I'm talking about starting a work from home side hustle. All I'll say is that for me, the platform that I trust to give me the necessary training that would help you start a side hustle for me is Skillshare. I always say Skillshare, but Skillshare is honestly underestimated. Skillshare is the only platform that helps you to learn a skill, whatever skill that you want to learn, without any interruptions, without any adverts. And they have different trainings for the level that you are. If it is photography that you want to learn, if you want to start a YouTube channel, if you want to learn how to edit videos for other content creators, or even edit Instagram reels and shorts, how to do that. If you want to start selling on Etsy, if you want to start selling on eBay or Shopify, whatever it is, I recommend Skillshare platform for you. There's so many things that you can learn that can earn you money without you necessarily stepping out of your house, and that is the flexibility that we are all asking for. It can be photography, it can be video editing, it can be whatever it is. There's a class on Skillshare for you. Okay, I have done so many courses at this moment, I'm even losing count, but my favorite would forever be Ali Abdal's course on how to edit in Final Cut Pro X. Most of you enjoy my editing and most of you love my videos because of the way I edit, and I got a eureka moment when I did that. I took that course of how to edit in Final Cut Pro on Skillshare. This guy has a YouTube channel, but he's never shared any of these things on his YouTube channel. You know, it's only there. I also learned how to do proper YouTube videos with my course that I took from MKBHD on YouTube Success, how to script, film, shoot, whatever. These creators, they all have YouTube channel, but they don't share these things on their YouTube channels. Okay, they share them on Skillshare. The gems and the tips there, you will not find them anywhere. Whether you're a beginner, an intermediate, or a pro, there is a class for the level that you are on for whatever thing that you want to learn. The first 500 people to use my Skillshare link in the description will get access to one of Skillshare's very best offers. You get 30 days free of Skillshare. That's crazy. I know people that are selling courses for thousands of pounds, right? And so I think this is such an amazing offer that you do not want to miss. Okay, thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's video. Okay, so in conclusion, the main con about the many contracted hours is the fact that obviously you're going to be stressed, you're going to be worn out, okay, and you have less time to do any part-time job and less time for your family. However, when it comes to the money aspect, you're also likely to take more on a basic level. And for the person who is on a lower contracted hours, obviously you will not get as much money, and it is even more dangerous if there are no overtime. If you're betting on overtime, there are no overtime, you're not gonna get as much money. However, if there is overtime, you stand a chance of even earning more. However, you will still have enough time for your family and enough time to start a side hustle. So it's neither here or there, okay? But do what works for you. If you're saying, oh, you don't have any family commitments, you don't know anybody around, I think you can work, okay, and even still do a side hustle. You can pick 44 hours contract and even still have a side hustle. But for you people like me who do not have an option, let's go share with your best friend. I hope this video was of benefit to you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.